lock that in so that those ideas are set and ready to go, and you can just kind of start doing your research on your own. But thank you guys for being here. Let me just quick take attendance. Tomorrow's attendance will just be a Google form. I'll send that out like we used to when we first started doing hybrid stuff back in the day. Okay, let's see. So start thinking about, if you haven't told me yet, what your question is for yourself for your final project. The options that people have given me so far, obviously mine was, what movie should I watch? I've seen, what kind of car should I buy? What shoes should I get? What kind of job should I go after? You know, what skate park should I go to? Where should I go for dinner? What type of bear is best? Like, the options are totally endless, as long as you can find at least 30 choices to answer your question, right? You don't want to ask yourself a question that doesn't have a lot of options. So, because we want to be able to do the research, you want to be able to figure out what those categories are, and you want to find a way to quickly do that research and put all those things together right in the Google Sheet. So, so that's kind of what I'm thinking for today. If you haven't told me what your question is and what your categories are, I want to figure that out with you today. Okay, so Stephen, Macy, Chandler, Sydney, Gian, I just need one more if you're here, and then Nikki. You guys have you're all good. Right? You've told me what your question was. You figured out what your categories are, and hopefully what you've chosen should be pretty easy to research from here on out, so that you can just kind of take the next couple weeks and get that done. And I'll set some due dates for some things, so just kind of keep an eye on Canvas and what's going on there. But what I wanted to do today, and I'll share my screen while I do it so that if people are watching at home, you can see what I'm talking about. But I want to make the Google Sheet that's going to be your final project's spot where you do all the research and where you figure out all that formulas and stuff that we're going to type in and all that. So, so I'm going to start sharing my screen. If you're here now and you can jump, and you can do it from your phone too, because we're not going to fill in any of the formulas yet. I'm going to kind of show you how to do that a different day. I just want to be able to create the sheet, and then you can just kind of go through and start dropping in your options. Formulas will kind of be one of the last things that we do. So let me share. So go into your drive. Whatever folder you made for data and decisions. And I've got all my my lessons from that Google Sheets project that we did. Here's what we're just going to make one more. This will be the only one you need. So I'm going to make a new Google Sheet. And I'm going to call it Final Project and then my name. Okay. And what I want to give you today, and it'll be quick, is what we want the setup for this Google Sheet to look like. So I'm just going to jump back into my drive. I will put this on Canvas. I don't know if I have. If I haven't, I definitely will. But I'm just going to pull it up right now so you can look at it. The write-up for that final project has the screenshot of what I want you to do for this part right now, okay? And it's what you're looking at right there, okay? Part one of this project was just to let me know what your question is. Part two was to figure out the categories, right? And let me know. And so if you've got already that 10 out of 10 in the grade book for that, then I have it, right? But if you don't, it should be missing right now, and I want to figure out what that is. So for you guys at home, you might not have something to put in B1 just yet because you don't know what your question is. And you might not have B7, C7, D7, E7, and F7 figured out yet because you don't know what those categories are, but you can type in everything else, okay? So I'm gonna just kind of jump back to here so you can see what it looks like. Like in A1, I'm gonna put just the word question, and then in B1 would actually go your question if you've got one. Okay. In A3, so I'm going to skip all of row 2 just to give myself some visual space. In A3, I'm going to type the words preference vector. Now, if you were in cohort A, it probably makes a lot more sense when I talk about a vector. If you were in cohort B, you didn't see this lesson in person. But what we're going to do with all of our categories, so I'm just going to say category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, category 5. You're going to pick, once you figure out what your categories are, what your preference is for whatever question you're asking. Based on those categories, right? You want to know what you like. And, you know, it really depends on your question and what your categories are going to be. And then you kind of pick what your preference is. Now, let me tell you this. It doesn't have to be like 0 is my preference or 10 is my preference given some category. You get to pick what those numbers mean. But you want to have it make sense as a range of values from 0 on one end of some spectrum to 10. Right? But maybe your preference is 5, right? Or 4 or 8 or 1 or 10 or 0, it doesn't matter. You get to pick what that preference is. Remember, for me, when I did my example, what movie should I watch? My first category was humor, right? How funny is the movie? I'm not always in the mood to watch a funny movie. So my preference might be 0, no humor at all. My preference might be 10. You know, every line is hysterical. Or my preference might be, you know what, I don't really care one way or the other right now, so maybe I put a 5. And that's okay, right? You get to pick whatever numbers you put here in row 4, right underneath there, okay? Sorry, go back to this one. Okay, and so right here for you, eventually I'm just going to make it yellow so you can see it. Like stuff is going to go in there, right? Some numbers, right? So this, put your question here. You're actually going to type what your question is. And then you're going to put a number and a number and a number and a number and a number. Right? You're going to pick some range of values. I'm just going to fit every, there we go. Yeah, but I don't really care about that. You're going to put whatever you want, whatever your preference is in that spot. So figure out what your question is, drop that in B1, and then just create row 3 and row 4 to look like that. And you can't put numbers in here for row 4 until you figure out what your categories are and what preference you might have based on whatever your question is. Okay, so that's row 4. I'm going to skip row 5 just for visualization's sake. And then I'm going to write row 6 like this. Okay, row 6. It's just going to say, here comes the data. I'm going to copy and paste category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, and category 5. And then in that space below, you'll actually write what those categories are. Right? Maybe you're trying to figure out where to go for lunch. And so you have price, distance from home, type of food that it is, and your range can be whatever you want. It can be anything. It's totally up to you. You know, how long does it take to be served? Maybe you want fast food one day, but maybe you also want to have like a leisurely lunch. And so your preference might change based on what that is, okay? So write down your categories here. That's what you'll do. You'll actually write down what those are. Price, distance, flavor, reviews on Google or Yelp or whatever, okay? That's going to go there. So you have to figure out what that is, right? And then you'll just start writing your potential choices. All right, so your choices are going to go here. Choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, and that should probably take you all the way down to at least choice 30 in row 37. Okay. You see how I did that? You don't have to write this. You're actually going to write in Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Burger King, whatever your choices are for whatever your question is. Okay. And there's your setup. Okay. If you've created this Google Sheet and it's in that same folder, so you're going to actually write this in. I'm going to make this yellow so we know that you have to write it in. And of course, you're going to then rate each one of these based on your categories. So you're going to have 30 choices, 5 ratings each. And if it's in that folder, I should be able to see it. Okay. And all I need to do to give you credit for this is to have, how about this, right? To have all of that figured out. Okay. Your question, all of this stuff all typed in. Okay, so everything that's in this box, you don't have to have your research done yet. That's part 4. Okay, your research is row 8 and down to row 37 with all your choices. Okay, that's what's probably going to take you the longest amount of time. And so I would like you to start getting that done this week, and you're going to want to finish it by early next week. And I'll set a due date for that so you can see what I'm thinking. But that's all I need. Like, see this right here. Good to go. Okay, set up the spreadsheet like the example below so that our formulas will work later once we actually put them in. Okay, and we'll do that live probably next Monday. Okay, so we'll start putting in those formulas. Okay, because that's going to be part 4. That's the research. Go out and collect the data. You're going to need at least 30 different data points to evaluate, and then you'll make a decision. Okay, but you can see in here is all the formulas and stuff. So if you want to do it, you can look down below part 5, and it tells you exactly where to type it. In cell G4, type exactly this. Move to cell G8 and type exactly that, et cetera, and what that's doing, so you can see how that all works. Okay. So there you go. I just wanted to give you a nice kind of beginning part to this, so you have a place to start getting some stuff done. And what I'd love to see, and it doesn't have to be something you shout out to the world right now, but I definitely want to make sure that before you go today, so don't leave until you have it done. Once you disappear, once you log off and you say goodbye, I assume that you have this part done and you figured out your question and your categories. I will go back in today and I'll check it and make sure it looks good. Okay, and I can go back, I'll give you credit for part 1 and part 2 if you put a question and your categories, and this is part 3 right here, just making the Google Sheet so you have a place to do your research. Questions about that? Hopefully you're seeing that right there and you just start filling some stuff in, okay? Maybe what you do is you figure out what your category ranges are. You know, like what does 0 mean? What does 10 mean for each of those categories? And you write it down somewhere. You could write it down right here. Right? What is the range of each category? Right? You kind of want to know how you're going to rate whatever it is. 0 being something and 10 being something, and everything kind of being stuck between there. Okay, you don't have to divide it evenly. You know, if you're doing like distance away, if you're trying to go figure out what lunch is, it doesn't have to be 0 means 0 miles and 1 means 1 mile and 2 means 2 miles. 0 could be like 0 to 5 miles, and 10 could be 100 to 200 miles away, whatever you want. So you have that freedom to pick whatever range makes sense for you. But if you don't know what that range is, how are you going to rate each of these choices if you haven't thought that part through? So a little prior planning on your part for each of these categories is going to make the actual data collection for part 4 over the next week way easier. Cool. So there you go. All right, so stick around and make this Google Sheet and type in your question, type in your categories. If you can pick a preference vector, right? These 5 numbers here for what you're looking for with each one. And it's up to you if you need to figure out what that range is so that it makes sense. Do that too. Write those categories down. And then you're good. Once I see you log off, I know you're done, and I will go in and I'll give you credit for that. Okay. And if you have questions, now is definitely the time to ask those, right? Now is the time where you're like, okay, I'm not really sure what my categories could be. I got like my first 2, but I don't know what to do with my next 3. Or I don't know what range I should do, or I don't even have a question yet. Can you give me some ideas? Whatever it is. Stick around and let me know if you need some help. Otherwise, you're good to go. Like I said, check Canvas tomorrow for just a way to check yourself in for attendance, because they took off the check yourself in option now that we're fully remote. So you'll want to get yourself checked in so I know that you're present for the day. And then Wednesday, I'll have you guys jump back on and we'll just chat for a little bit about how to fill out. Maybe we'll just do that Wednesday. We'll fill out the formulas, and I'll make sure that things are looking good for you, and we'll go from there. Cool. So stick around if you have questions. If you disappear, I know you're good and that your Google Sheet is set up and ready to go, and I can go in and check that. And I will see you Wednesday, same time, same place. We'll make it quick. So if you got questions, speak up now, and we'll make it work.
Alrighty, I shared mine. I have the question categories and what the categories like are rated on.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Aiden.
Sweet. Am I good to go?
You are good to go, brother. Have a good one. I will see you Wednesday.
Alrighty, peace out.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, Rosie, can you check mine real quick?
Sure. Can you share your folder with me? Because I don't see it.
Yeah.
I click the drop down next to your, I think the name of your folder, and you should be able to share it. Or just share this thing with me. That's fine too.
That's what I did.
Yeah, no, that looks good. Price, age, CC's okay. Weight and style. You just want to, I think you might want to figure out, you don't have to write it down, but as long as you know what it is for that weight category, know, like have what 0 means and have what 10 means. Like 0 is however many pounds and 10 is however many pounds.
Okay.
And then, but what you want to do, so in that, so here's what I would do. I'm gonna take that row and I'm just gonna slide it down to there, because in B4, C4, D4, E4, and F4, you're gonna put your number that you prefer. Like for category 1, I want something cheaper but newer. You know, so I'm going to put like a 0 for category 1, and you're going to put a 9 for category 2, and you're going to put a 6 for category 3, or whatever you want each of those categories to be. If you had to pick like your perfect bike, what would it be? And obviously you're probably not going to find that perfect bike, right? It's not going to fit exactly into each of those categories. And that's what the whole point of this thing is like the formula will find the best bike for you as long as you pick what your preference is for each of those categories.
Okay.
Cool?
Yep.
Sweet. Thanks, Trey.
Yep.
Rosie, I just finished mine.
Okay.
If you want to check it
Sure.
before I hop off.
Later.
Do we have to know what each of our choices are right now?
What each of your 30 choices are?
Yeah.
No, that's
Okay.
like next week or so.
Okay.
You're gonna figure out what those choices are,
Okay.
and maybe you just kind of start writing down what options you have, but then like you actually attaching numbers to each of those choices for each category. That's kind of the point of the next week. Right now, I just want you to know, all right, what question do I have? What are my categories? And if you can figure out what your preference is for each of those categories, you're just one step ahead of the game. But actually filling out like row 8 through 38, no, that's not right now. That's coming up later. Yeah.
Right. Then I think I'm done. I'm not really sure. I think so.
I can check.
Okay.
Let me just check Dane's real quick. Yeah, Dane looks good. You just watch your spelling a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good. So I'll bold the ones you want to check your spelling on. Everything else is good. Style, color, comfort, traction, condition. Some of those I think you'll easily be able to tell.
Yeah.
You know what is what. But Dane, if like thinking about style, that kind of sounds like you're going to decide how much style each of those shoes have, right? It's not going to be something you're going to be able to research, which is fine. Just keep that in mind as you go. You're going to answer that category for each one, which is cool, right? Like for a lot of people, I think there's going to be categories where we make the decision about a ranking for a choice based on a certain category because that's the category we chose. So yeah, looks good. You're good to go.
All right. Thanks, Rosie.
Yeah. All right, Sid, let me see. Share it with me, Sid. I don't have it.
She left the call.
Oh, Sydney. Slacker.
Sorry I'm late, Mr. Rosengren. My Wi-Fi I was having trouble with my Wi-Fi. It just started to go down.
You're good. You're good. So what we did, I don't know how do you see any of it?
I literally just got in like
Okay.
5 minutes ago.
All right, let me just share my screen again, and you can see what I was talking about.
And then I saw your email that says that it's like recorded and we can rewatch it before 12 or something.
You can, yeah. I mean, if you
Okay.
want, you can just because I'll probably stop recording here in a second, and then I'll just put it up.
Yeah.
I was going to share my screen and talk it through, but I already kind of did that. So let me just do that. Let me stop recording because then it'll send the recording to me. I'll put it up on YouTube, and